Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about a ship that I'm very sort of fond of and very much looking forward to. I'm talking about the Anvil Crucible. This ship has a ton of potential, but we know it's due a rework. So everything we have to go on is pure guesswork, and there isn't really too much information on this ship in terms of development, what the rework plans are, any of that cool stuff. So you should really take this video as really sort of a rough oversight as to the potential of the concept itself, the idea of the ship and what it will in the future be capable of. So there's going to be a lot of theory crafting, a lot of guesswork, which is exciting and also worrying at the same time, right? So the Anvil Crucible, the flying toolbox, a ship that, you know, it's very intriguing. I like the original concept of this ship. I like the way it looks. I think it looks cool. It has some unique features. And with the scraping and salvaging in-game and working well, I think the potential for the Crucible to be a very decent fixer-upper is certainly on the table. I like the way it looks. As I said, I think it looks... it's very unique, isn't it, the way it looks? Now, originally I had the Vulcan. I like the Vulcan. The Vulcan looks just as cool, in my opinion, right? But the Crucible is bigger and is going to be able to do more. It has some features like a bridge that rotates, for example, which is super handy. And whether or not it's a gimmick is here or there, neither here or there. But for me, I think the Crucible was a must-have, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this ship comes about and what they intend to do. Now, this ship does have some interesting, let's say, mechanics behind it. That's the worrying part, because the way the game's going at the moment with the Beam Citizen, I don't see too much of this being implemented from original details. Now, I'm well aware that this ship, to reach its full potential, is going to have to wait for engineering, probably wait for the drones on certain ships to come in and things of this nature, because no point trying to build a ship now when the game is still evolving, right? So I understand that point of it. It does have some cool things though. So as you can see in this image here, for example, not only does it have like a folding lid where the ships will go in and sit in the front and be repaired, but it does have extendable arms equipped with various tools to fix your ship. Now, the idea is that you would take a damaged ship, put it in the docking bay of this particular vessel, and then from the bridge, there are operator seats. You would then apply the various fixes to the broken ship that you want to repair, right? I've picked one up, not necessarily to go fix things in space, but to have it on the ground, okay, at a place of my choice, probably at a base location or something like that, and bring broken ships in, fix them or scrap them for parts, etc., and try and make money that way. I think in tandem with my Liberator, because the Liberator is going to be my ship that I send out to sort of pick up all these broken ships, transport them back to the Crucible, patch them up, sell them on, or scrap them for parts. That's kind of my early days philosophy on how I intend to use the ship. This will be parked alongside my Drake Caterpillar, which is like a smaller flying toolbox, so to speak, because we know the Cat's going to be modular. So I think having some spare parts available for the Crucible on board the Caterpillar makes a lot of sense and could easily be a very fun, interesting game loop. Possibly a pretty rewarding one in terms of time per cost. You know, if I put 4 ships into the Crucible and fix them and sell them on or scrap them for parts, I'm going to have a good time, right? And having the Drake Cat work in tandem with this ship, along with the Liberator bringing in those broken vessels, I think there's a lot of fun gameplay to be had with the Crucible, especially when paired with other ships. So that's kind of the rough idea I've got in my head. Now, obviously, that could flip on a dime instantly, because there's so much we need to wait for. So engineering gameplay, as I said, Maelstrom is another one that we need to wait for. Now, I couldn't find any information regarding if this ship actually has drones. Out of all of the ships, I would argue, I think this is a ship that probably needs them the most, unless they do actually build those repair arms and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. So there's a lot up in the air about the Crucible. I do like it. I strongly suspect as well that during the rework, I think this ship will get bigger. I think it's, in its current form, I think it's too small. I think they're going to want to up the ante on this ship, make it bigger to fit larger vessels in, because at the moment it's tailored for sort of Hornets, Gladius, Arrows, ships of that size. I don't think that is particularly where CRG want to take this ship. I think they want to make it bigger so that it could easily handle things like Constellations, Valkyries, Asgards, and in its current form, as you can see, it's quite compact, right? So that would be my first initial guess as to the direction that they're going to take the Crucible. So as we can see here, again, very limited information on this ship. It's a very old concept, so I've had to spend ages improving images, you know, adjusting the color. It's been a nightmare, and then I deleted this video by mistake because, you know, I'm an idiot. So I've had to redo all of that, but here we are. As you can see, we have plenty of landing gear, we have VTOL engines, we have a bridge that rotates 360 degrees, which is really cool. We have the docking bay at the front, which is you're gonna sort of park your broken ships in there and then go to town via the engineering stations found on board the ship to fix them, okay? So, aesthetically, let's talk about how it looks. I think it looks great. It does kind of look like a repair ship. If you were to see this for the first time and guess, you'd go, that kind of looks like a repair ship. There's no indication that this is a sort of full-on combat ship. So, as you can see here, this is the cockpit view. And you have the large bay. Then we have the front of the ship. And then underneath, again, with multiple landing gear. Very Caterpillar-esque with the landing gear. We have multiple winglets and some, I want to say they're sort of guide rails either side of the ship, just where that cargo bridge is. Sorry, not cargo, the landing bay here is. I don't know if that is supposed to detach. That would be extremely useful if that was a modular part of the ship. So possibly. Who knows? Like I said, there's a lot of guesswork going into this video because I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for a lot of information to come out about their ship. And since they just announced it, well, they haven't just announced it, but since they announced this ship was going to rework, everything is sort of, you know, up in the air about this ship. But one of the key features is the rotating bridge. I can see that staying for sure. Maybe they'll change the look of it. I doubt it. I think what they tend to do with the reworks is just make things bigger, flush things out a bit more, and sort of incorporate new features to fit the current gameplay. So until we get Maelstrom, until we get engineering, we're really on the back foot as to how this ship's going to turn out. However, as a concept, as a repair vessel, as something that's going to be able to fix a lot of things, including bigger ships, don't forget, because those arms are extendable and are going to be able to fix larger ships. We saw earlier there was a picture of it fixing up an Idris, using its various arms to sort of do outward patchwork. I kind of theorised that those arms will be the reverse of scraping, and I think they will be beams. But instead of scraping from holes, they're going to reverse engineer that whole game mechanic. So you'll be putting the exterior back on the ship. That's my theory. That's kind of the direction CRG are taking at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do that. Because it does seem to be quite a complex vessel. Okay, so there's a lot to consider. I'm not entirely sure what these things here are, but there's a few of them. I'm not quite sure what they do or if that will even change, to be honest with you. I have absolutely no idea what those are. There's a few of those on board. Ship does have some defensive turrets as well on top, but you really shouldn't be anywhere near a combat zone with this ship. You're going to have problems, you know. I can see it at the tail end of a fleet after a major battle. Maybe two orgs have been arguing over some land or whatever, and obviously there are going to be a lot of battle-ridden corpses that need to be fixed. An org with one of these in the fleet at the back waiting to patch up and send back out, I think makes sense. I expect to see it quite often, especially if the org is really organised. You're going to want one of these on hand, probably with another hospital ship at the back as well. So you'd have your logistical fleet. I think the Crucible would be one of those. Now, as you can see, through the wire mesh, we do get a rough approximation of just how big internally the ship could be. Again, I still think that this is just too small when you look at it. I think it's too small. I honestly think the width and the height are going to be made bigger. Whether or not they keep the rotating bridge, which I hope they do, because I think that's a really awesome feature, is yet to be seen. So it's anyone's guessing game at the moment where this ship is going to end up, but I think it will be super, super useful. I upgraded my Vulcan to this. And regards to drones, again, I think out of all of the ships, that surely this is the one that needs the drones, right? Surely. So here we have like the basic stats for this ship, size, etc. But do not pay any attention to any of this because the rework is going to absolutely obliterate those stats. However, we can take a closer look at the ship, but to do that we need to go way back in time. For those of you that saw my Genesis video, we're going to have to do the same thing. So essentially what I'm going to do is hand you over to the devs at the time so that you can understand the thought process of why this ship was created at the time. To do that, we do have to go back a few years, so I'll pass you over now.
On this episode of Ship Shape, we're sitting down once again with technical designer Randy Vasquez, who's going to take us through the very, very early white box of the Crucible interior. Randy, how you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good, good. You ready to do this one more time?
Let's do this.
All right.
Today we'll be looking at the Crucible, and kind of you can see right here, this is the kind of overall layout of the Crucible itself. So let's actually get you in. Actually, let me just do this real quick. So this kind of just breaks down the levels and layers of the Crucible. Again, this is really early concept, really, really early on, just designs in general. So we're going to go ahead and close that out and then jump in game.
All right.
So kind of what I've been working on is just building out the interior layouts. This is about maybe a week or so, maybe a little bit more
You haven't been on
into
this
the
very long.
process. No,
This is very early in the process.
it really is. And this kind of touches some salvage, it touches repair, and probably a few other systems we can't talk about yet. So we're going to get into it. So as you can see here, we're going to go ahead and enter through the rear ramp. And this is going to be kind of where ships are inside of it. So single-seater ships will be sitting inside of this thing.
Hornets, Gladius.
Yeah, things like that. Smaller ships that can be repaired internally. As you can see, as we first enter into this area, we have some we have some cargo, we have where equipment would be, we have some cranes and everything set up so that way like arms can come out and kind of operate in that area.
Okay.
So as we continue through, we can see that we have some repair pumps, we have some fuel pumps, we have coolant pumps, so anything that ship would need to also help with refitting and resupplying. So that will also be a function of this type of ship.
Good.
Now, since they're going to start on the bottom, we're going to look at we have some components on the sides, we have some airlock entryways. Basically, every single entry into the ship from the outside is going to be an airlock. Just because being a repair ship, they need to be able to get in and out of the ship at any time. So you'll also be seeing a lot of personal storage around the area, so that way they can put on suits and have equipment right there, and they can re-equip right before they exit the door.
This work area it's not open like this. It has doors. So
Yes, it'll actually be enclosed that can actually open up as well.
that's just another reason for the airlocks. Because
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. All right.
Yeah, some of this stuff is going to be actually open to space, while others are not going to be open to space. And we're still very much on designing a lot of the exterior as well as the interior at the same time. It's actually been really cool. Ryan Church is the one working on this ship,
Mhm.
and he's done some awesome work. So if you look up his stuff, you'll be able to see some of the stuff he's contributed to.
Installation, Idris.
Yeah, not even just us. Like his other work's
Oh, yeah.
pretty awesome. I mean,
He's kind of good.
he kind of knows how to do things. So this whole area is actually a module that can come in and out, or detach and be attached. So actually, these stations up here are actually part of the module that come off. So these are going to be the internal arm operators that will actually be able to get into the rest of the ship as well. And those arm operators will be taking care of like these cranes that are built along the sides, and then they'll be kind of manipulating them. So let's get inside the ship.
Okay.
So everything, like I said before, everything has airlocks. We have 2 entryways on either side. Ideally, I kind of see it working kind of like how like a kitchen crew would work, where they go in one door and they only exit the other door. So
Alright.
that way the crew is always trained
Okay.
to kind of do that. It kind of makes sense flow-wise, right? Like
Yeah.
if the crew is trained that way, then it just makes it easier. Like, all right, I'm entering. You never have to worry about, yelling, make a hole, and then everybody kind of get congested.
Exactly.
Now, this middle area right here is an airlock that is actually an elevator. So like the constellation, you know how the middle part of the constellation kind of just drops down
Okay.
so that people can load stuff on. So that kind of follows suit actually. As you see here, I have 36 SCU that's able to go on this elevator, and this will be able to load things. What is this? Oh, it's another entry. So this will be an entryway like elevator for personnel, and then they enter through here. As you can see, kind of just shares that space. So this first area is going to be, as it says, loading and storage. We could load storage here. We could have equipment here. It kind of depends on what the crew wants to do. And this is going to be where like EVA suits and everything is stored.
Okay.
Right. This central area is another elevator that is going to be serving the whole entire ship. So this will take you actually into the rest of the ship. So let's go up.
Okay. This is in the center of that cylindrical area.
Mhm.
All right.
Yep. So going up, we have engineering. So engineering will have a lot more components and piping and everything to basically keep the ship running. So as you see here, we have like an engineering station, and this is where the engineer is going to basically have most of his job. So there's also right here a repair station where they're going to be going through and doing anything to get ready for preparing for repairs and everything like that. And you had mentioned that there's going to be actually a post soon.
Yeah. By the time folks see this, hopefully, there will be a detailed post on the repair system by our own Todd Pappy. So you'll get to read about repair gels and all this stuff that you have to do in preparation of repair.
Nice.
So that's what this station's for.
So in engineering, also it connects through airlocks again, the internal arm operations, and I'm kind of just going to show both sides to show that they both kind of feed into this this area is meant so that you can get to multiple parts of the ship multiple ways. And then this is observation deck, and we're gonna have hopefully some screens set up here so that way if anybody's walking around doing something like that, you can check the status. Kind of like when you're at the doctors and like, you have the screen set up and be like, okay, this patient is set up like this.
Yeah.
It kind of has that type of like, we want that functionality.
Okay.
So hopefully like just information everywhere, right? It's a repair ship. People should know what the status of repairs are no matter where you are. So continuing on with engineering, we have components off to the wings, and this is going to be like where fuel is, where the coolants are, where ballast is. This is going to have like the drone launch bays for the front of the ship. Go on this side as well. Again, feeds into the room, so that way personnel space. You can even get up to the other level above, which we'll talk about in a few seconds. So the one thing that's about this room is besides the drone launch, ballast and power and fuel and stuff, this is actually where the engine array works. So as you can see here, this is the engine array, and we have large engines, one top, one bottom, and this thing actually slides across a track. So basically this thing will slide over here or slide back here. And this is going to be based on the mass. So if the center of mass changes, then the engine's arrays actually will move based on where their center of mass is.
Gotcha. And this is because we're taking entire other ships
Yep.
into our hold.
Yep.
It's a little more than just cargo.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right.
Nope. So that is the main purpose. So when this needs to go in repair mode though, then basically this hole will line up with the center of the engine array.
Okay.
And then the player should be able to climb into it and then do your own repairs for your own ship if you need
Gotcha.
to. So that's kind of a unique thing for our game. We're not going to talk about drones for a while because that's going to be in another doc. So let's, instead of going to the elevator, let's go ahead and go up here now. So basically, we're up here now, and don't worry, a lot of these things you won't be able to see in the real ship. This is all just very much early on white box stuff. So
This is about the earliest white box you can have, guys. So
yeah,
you said you wanted to see how the sausage was made. This is as early as the sausage is being made here.
So this actually goes into the crew quarters, and 2 crew members would be sleeping in this area, and just some little lounge area for their own. And then if they want to read a book, they don't want to lay down or something like that. But each individual crew pod will be its own dedicated escape pod as well. So if catastrophic failure happens, then they're able to jump in there and kind of get out of Dodge. So this is the crew common area where, they would cook meals, they would eat, store food, kind of have like a little lounge where they can just chill and chat and stuff. Bathroom, showers, all that stuff would be in this area right here. And then on the other side, more of the same. That way I kind of keep it separated a little bit.
Yeah.
So they can kind of have some privacy, but then still have dorm mates. So let's go up to the last floor, which is the bridge.
Okay.
All right. So now the bridge is unique, right? In that it is meant to actually rotate.
Okay.
So we're still figuring out the designs, whether it's going to be an interior only rotating or if it's going to be the whole entire top part rotating. And the reason why this would be rotating is we have 3 crew members up here, right? And each crew member can kind of change what they want to do on the job, right? So like the middle seat would be the pilot seat, dedicated pilot seat. And the other guys, they'd be doing arm operations. They would be doing drone operations, so various functions would be handled by the guys on the side. As well as, one could be a co-pilot, one could be helping out engineering. The engineering station is probably the main station that's doing just that. But then also the engineer would probably go over and take care of repair preparations and probably anything else they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though this ship is only manned by 4 people, there's at least 7 stations on this thing.
Yeah.
So that way people will need to actually switch around, do different things. So this ship will keep people busy.
So you've got the arrows on the floor there. I should have guessed it was going to turn around.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're working on. So as we said before, airlocks everywhere. We have escape pods here, 2 more over here, so that way the crew can get out if they're either in the bridge or if they're in the crew quarters. So there's always something they can reach, right?
Gotcha.
So right here, this airlock actually will take them out to this area right here. So if there's something they need to get to really quickly, they can EVA out, and this is right on top of the observation deck. And again, they can kind of EVA out again and go down to different levels. People I see kind of swarming all over the place and kind of just going from there. So we kind of wanted to keep that as in it is a repair ship. It is meant to be entered and exited quickly, to be able to get to different areas, different levels really easily based on what the needs of the ship is.
Very cool.
So I think Ryan had talked about things where the seats themselves are actually going to be on tracks. So based on what is happening with the ship, then basically you get better visibility. So like these things will be moving forward, or these things will be moving backwards. Like there's still a bunch of things that we have to work out and kind of go from there. So, and then once these things are turned over here, then this is the view that they'd be seeing. So they can kind of overview everything and look over everything. All right, so let's do something real quick. I want to show you guys kind of, this is what the ship kind of looks like when we have other ships. As you see, I started with some smaller ships, kind of placing them around inside here. I have like an Argo in there. I have some other things like the Constellation, the Retaliator, and we can kind of see with the thing open, these things can fit up to a point,
Mhm.
and then that's when these arms kind of will unfurl and start doing some of the repair. So, and for even larger ships, drones and these repair arms will be used.
Gotcha.
So it really depends on the different type of repair that they will need to get done. They'll use different tools to repair it.
Gotcha. And so this is why you'd want the command module to rotate, because when you have such a large ship in here, the existing observation deck, when you end up looking at the underside of the retaliator there.
Yep.
So, gotcha.
So really quickly, I'm gonna actually turn on this thing so you guys can see, you guys get a good look of kind of what we've been working with and just building up right here. And let's go ahead and turn it on there. So now we can kind of see all of the stuff fitting inside the ship. So we've been kind of rebuilding the ship piece by piece, kind of just based on the functionality and where we kind of saw things fitting.
Very cool.
Oh, one thing we didn't talk about was the turrets up top.
Sure.
So all the turrets are going to be remote turrets. So that way these people on the side right here, when they're not doing other things, they can actually turn into like, turret gunners, and without switching from their stations. Everything's going to be super modular, as in like people are going to be switching jobs really quickly on the ship just to kind of feed the need of the ship at that time.
Very cool.
And that is about it for this. I really hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, Randy. It's I don't think it can be said enough. We and everybody in the community appreciate you taking the time to do these for us. Yeah, this is an exciting ship. I think by the time people see this, the ship will be on sale already. You should have the design doc on repair from Todd Pappy. So yeah, it's an exciting ship, a whole new avenue of gameplay, and definitely excited to have it aboard. So Randy, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
All right, back to you guys.
Okay, so as you can see, there were some interesting things to be found in that video, one of them being the engine slide on guide rails, which is obviously very, very cool. Whether or not that stays, I don't know. Now, referring to the technical document that Mr. Pappy left for this ship, obviously it's really old, antiquated, and probably not going to be a feature of the Crucible. But as you can see, we have some early sort of drawouts of how this ship might operate and fix smaller craft. So as you can see, top left, we have the wing struts of a Gladius here, with various damage levels, and we have the giant robotic arms patching and re-establishing the wing spars to make this ship flyable. Obviously, I think that's going to be replaced from the Crucible as we know it, and it will probably be laser beams of some sort. Like I said, I strongly theorize that it's going to be the reverse of scraping, so instead of stripping the hull, you're putting it back on. So we can see the top left, we have the robotic arm patching up the Gladius. On the top right, we have something that is very similar to scraping of that damage. Again, bear in mind this is incredibly old. We have our personnel in the bottom left implementing the fixes, and then we have this really cool robot arm here refabricating the wing struts of the Gladius. That is something I would like to see more than laser beams, I can tell you that much. That needs to be a thing. I hope they stick to that, because I really think that is an excellent thing to have on a repair ship, to give that player the sense of actually fixing something that's something other than laser beams. Whether or not that comes to fruition is anyone's guess. Again, we have some more damage here on a separate Gladius, and you can start to see these similarities between scraping and where the potential for these arms and the repair jobs are going to be implemented. Right, I honestly think it's going to be the reverse of scraping. So instead of stripping the holes, you're going to be using that RMC, for example, to slap it back on, which is a little bit rudimentary. I would like to see them get a little bit more technical in the game. start fleshing out these systems. Now, they always say they've got plans in the future, but it's very hard to see the future when they don't give us the information that's tailored to it. Again, Maelstrom and engineering are a pivotal part of how this ship is going to work, and will probably shape the rework quite substantially, would be my educated guess. But yeah, we kind of need to step away from the laser beam magic. I think they need to actually start digging deep and producing other ways to incorporate these mechanics in game, in my opinion. So originally, as you can see on screen now, we have all of these materials and how they would be implemented, the compounds used, what would be a better repair material than others, how much time, heat takes an effect, all of these things that the operators of the robot arms, as we saw in the video from the devs, would be able to select the correct materials and drag and drop them onto the ship that needs repairing, right? So the early concept is way more technical than I was expecting. Whether or not they stick to that is anyone's guess. I hope they do, because it requires the player to, engage your brain, which I enjoy, rather than just point a laser at something. So this needs to happen, okay? I really want players, including myself, to make a conscious decision as to what I'm putting into these repair materials to extrapolate the best result, right? So it all looks very complex here, but they've got the original sort of foundation for how it could work. I don't see any reason why this couldn't be implemented. So I hope they stay true to this sort of side of gameplay. I really do, because I love Star Citizen, I do, but it is lacking depth that these ships were built for, in my opinion. And the Crucible should be fun. It shouldn't be overwhelming. We know engineering is going to be overwhelming at some points, especially if you're getting attacked, etc. But I do want pros and cons. I do want trade-offs, and I do want thought being put into ship gameplay. I really do. I think it makes for a better immersive experience, and that's what I'm seeking at the moment. Laser beams just don't cut it for me anymore. I'm sorry to say, it just doesn't. So hopefully they stay true to the effort they've put in here. So the Anvil Crucible then has some very cool features. Rotating bridge, engines that slide on rails. The repair bay is detachable, which is brilliant for either escaping or even, you can steal someone's ship, detach that, leave it somewhere and come pick it up at another point. There's a whole host of gameplay loops that the Crucible has the potential to fulfill, basically. It looks great. I strongly suspect it's going to get bigger. I hope they keep the rotating bridge. I really like that. I think it's a very clever design. Yeah, it's really difficult to try and imagine what the rework is going to look like. Now, typically, like I said, they just seem to make things bigger. They keep the way the ship looks to a certain extent. I know the Banu Merchantman had a whole facelift. I don't think that would necessarily happen to the Crucible, or at least I hope I don't, because I kind of like the flying toolbox the way it looks now. In my eyes, it looks mechanical. It looks like a logistical ship, and I hope they stay true to its form, because the Crucible has tons of potential. It really does. I think it has a role to play in orc fleets, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I said, scooping up battle ships that have been taken ridiculous amounts of damage. Piracy, you could steal ships with this, with the detachable repair words are hard, repair bay. There's a whole host of things that this ship could do, and I'm really looking forward to it, to seeing its arrival and what the rework holds. So there we go, guys. That was my video on the Anvil Crucible. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what buttons to press, and I of course will have more Star Citizens content en route to your location soon. Cheers.